In every corner of the world, people vanish. Sometimes there's a clue, a dropped wallet, a hastily abandoned car, a last, desperate phone call. But in the most chilling cases, there's nothing. Not a trace. No answers. Just a haunting void where a person once was. Welcome back to Chilling Mysteries. Tonight, we're peeling back the layers on the most bizarre unsolved disappearances ever recorded. Cases where individuals stepped out of their ordinary lives and were simply never seen again. How does someone vanish into thin air in a world teeming with surveillance, technology, and relentless investigators? And what dark secrets might lurk beneath the surface of these true crime enigmas? Let's begin with a case that has baffled investigators for decades, a story that sounds more like urban legend than reality: the disappearance of Brandon Swanson. On the night of May 14, 2008, Brandon, a 19-year-old from Minnesota, was driving home after celebrating the end of his college semester. Around 1:54 a.m., his car veered into a ditch on a gravel road. He called his parents, frustrated but unharmed, asking them to pick him up. Brandon sounded confused about his exact location, but he was sure he could see lights from a nearby town. As his parents drove to find him, Brandon stayed on the phone, reassuring them he'd walk towards the town and meet them on the road. Then, after 47 minutes on the call, Brandon suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, shit." The line went silent. Despite exhaustive searches, cadaver dogs, and national attention, not a single shred of evidence has surfaced. No sign of Brandon, no clues, just a final, chilling exclamation echoing into the night. Brandon's case is just the beginning. Across decades and continents, there are stories where people disappear without explanation, leaving behind families tormented by uncertainty and police departments haunted by dead ends. What connects these cases isn't just the lack of answers, it's the way each one shatters our faith in logic and reason. So, let's dive deeper into some of the most bizarre unsolved disappearances that continue to confound experts and obsess true crime enthusiasts. Consider the strange case of the Springfield Three. On June 7, 1992, in Springfield, Missouri, two friends, Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall, had just graduated from high school. They spent the night celebrating, moving between parties, before deciding to sleep at Susie's house. The next morning, both girls, and Susie's mother, Cheryl Levitt, were gone. The only traces: all three women's purses, jewelry, and cars left behind, a broken porch light, and a drawn curtain. There were no signs of struggle, no fingerprints, and no witnesses. The house was pristine, as if the three women had simply evaporated. The Springfield Police Department followed every lead. They chased down tips about a mysterious van, investigated potential suspects, and even dug up concrete at a local hospital based on a psychic's advice. Nothing. Over 30 years later, the case is as cold as ever. A missing trio, a quiet neighborhood, and not a single piece of physical evidence. To this day, the Springfield Three haunt the town with a single question: how can three people disappear from a locked house without leaving a trace? Now, let's travel back in time to one of the oldest, and eeriest, unsolved vanishings in American criminal history: the case of Ambrose Bierce. Bierce was a famed writer, journalist, and Civil War veteran, known for his dark, biting wit and chilling short stories. In 1913, at the age of 71, Bierce wrote to friends and family that he was traveling to Mexico to observe the revolution firsthand. His last known letter, dated December 26, 1913, read, "As to me, I leave here tomorrow for an unknown destination." After that, nothing. Not a single confirmed sighting, no body, no credible reports. Theories abound. Was he executed by revolutionaries? Did he stage his own death? Or was he swept away by the chaos of war? The FBI has never closed the file. Bierce's final words have become a haunting epitaph for anyone who's vanished, an unknown destination. Of course, some of the most disturbing cases involve children. The disappearance of Madeleine McCann in 2007 is one of the most infamous missing persons cases in modern times, but there are others, even more baffling. Take the case of Kyron Horman. On June 4, 2010, Kyron, a 7-year-old from Portland, Oregon, arrived at his elementary school for a science fair. His stepmother took a photo of him in front of his project, a snapshot that would be plastered across national news within days. Sometime after 9 a.m., Kyron disappeared from the school. No witnesses, no security footage, no forced entry. Hundreds of law enforcement officials, search and rescue teams, and volunteers combed the area for weeks. Despite the largest search in Oregon history, there's never been a credible lead. 7-year-old Kyron simply vanished, leaving behind a photo, a grieving family, and a community still searching for answers. Not all disappearances happen in small towns or quiet suburbs. In the heart of bustling London, the case of Claudia Lawrence still baffles detectives. Claudia was a 35-year-old chef who worked at the University of York. On March 18, 2009, she spoke to her mother on the phone, chatted with a friend, and texted goodnight. The next morning, Claudia failed to show up for work. Her car was parked outside her house, her passport and bank cards untouched. The police investigation quickly turned up a tangle of relationships and possible suspects, but no evidence of foul play, and no sign of Claudia. The case remains open, with detectives convinced someone in the community knows more than they're telling. But without a body or a crime scene, the truth is as elusive as ever. Some disappearances defy all logic, like the vanishing of Lars Matank. In 2014, Lars, a 28-year-old German tourist, was vacationing with friends in Bulgaria. After a night out, he got into a fight and suffered a ruptured eardrum. His friends returned home, but Lars stayed behind, visiting a doctor and behaving increasingly paranoid. He called his mother, whispering that people were after him. At Varna Airport, Lars was seen on security footage sprinting out of the terminal, leaving behind his luggage, passport, and wallet. He jumped a fence and ran into a nearby forest. He was never seen again. Was Lars suffering from a psychotic break? Was he being followed, as he claimed? Or did something far more sinister happen in those final moments? The lack of evidence, aside from one last, desperate dash, has fueled endless speculation. Unsolved disappearances don't just happen to individuals, they can engulf entire groups. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers set off into Russia's Ural Mountains, led by Igor Dyatlov. The group was never seen alive again. When searchers found their campsite, it looked like something from a nightmare. The tent was slashed open from the inside, the hikers' belongings were left behind, and their bodies were scattered in various states of undress, some with inexplicable injuries. While bodies were found and causes of death listed as hypothermia or trauma, the true story of what happened on the Dyatlov Pass remains a mystery. Theories range from secret military tests to inhuman forces. But one fact remains. 9 people vanished from the face of the earth in a matter of hours, leaving behind only questions. Closer to home, there's the story of Maura Murray, whose disappearance has become one of the most analyzed cases in Internet history. On February 9, 2004, Maura, a 21-year-old nursing student, emailed her professors saying there had been a family emergency. She packed her car, withdrew almost all the money from her bank account, and drove north to rural New Hampshire. That evening, Maura crashed her car on a dark, snowy road. A passing motorist stopped to help. Maura said she'd called AAA, though records show she hadn't. When police arrived minutes later, Maura was gone. Footprints in the snow led nowhere, and no trace of her was ever found. Despite countless theories, did she run away, meet with foul play, or become the victim of a random crime? The truth remains buried beneath the snowdrifts of the White Mountains. Sometimes, the circumstances of a disappearance are so bizarre, they seem almost supernatural. In 1978, Frederick Valentich, a 20-year-old Australian pilot, took off on a solo flight over Bass Strait. Mid-flight, he radioed air traffic control, reporting that an unidentified flying object was hovering above him. His last words: "It's not an aircraft." The radio went silent. His plane was never found. Was Valentich abducted? Did he crash in a moment of panic? Or did something stranger still happen over the dark waters of Bass Strait? Investigators found no wreckage, no oil slick, no sign he'd ever been there at all. But not all vanishings happen in the wilderness or the skies. There are cases where the missing person is surrounded by people, in full view of the public, and still manages to disappear completely. In 2013, Rico Harris, a former Harlem Globetrotters basketball player, was driving from Los Angeles to Seattle to visit his girlfriend. He called her in the early morning, sounding confused and disoriented. Hours later, his car was found abandoned in a remote part of California's Yolo County. Inside the car, his wallet, his cell phone, and a nearly empty gas tank. There were reports of a tall man, matching Rico's description, walking along the road. But despite extensive searches, no trace of Rico has ever been found. How does a 6 feet 9 inches man simply vanish from the face of the earth? Some cases involve entire families. In 1957, the Martin family, Kenneth, Barbara, and their 3 daughters, set out on a Sunday drive in Portland, Oregon. They were last seen buying gas and snacks at a roadside store. Their car, a 1954 Ford, was never found. Weeks later, some of the family's belongings washed up along the Columbia River. Then, the bodies of 2 daughters were discovered downstream, but the rest of the family, and their car, remained missing. Theories ran rampant: murder-suicide, abduction, or a tragic accident. But with key evidence lost to the river and the passage of time, the mystery endures. Even law enforcement isn't immune to the phenomenon of vanishing without a trace. In 1980, police officer Trevelyan Evans disappeared from her antique shop in Llangollen, Wales. She left a note in the window. "Back in 2 minutes." She never returned. Her purse, car, and keys were all left behind. Despite a massive manhunt and a media circus, Trevelyan was never seen again. The note, so ordinary, so mundane, has become a sinister symbol of the case. What was supposed to be a quick errand turned into a decades-long mystery. No discussion of the world's most bizarre unsolved vanishings would be complete without mentioning the case of Asha Degree. On Valentine's Day 2000, Asha, a 9-year-old girl from North Carolina, packed her book bag, left her house in the middle of a stormy night, and walked out into the darkness. Several motorists saw her walking along the highway, but by the time anyone stopped, she was gone. A year later, her backpack was found buried in plastic bags more than 20 miles from her home. But there's been no sign of Asha since. Why would a 9-year-old leave home on her own in the dead of night? Did someone lure her out, or did she meet a stranger on the road? The heartbreak of Asha's family is matched only by the utter confusion surrounding her disappearance. It's tempting to believe that with modern technology, cell phones, cameras, DNA databases, no one can truly disappear anymore. But these cases prove otherwise. Whether it's a child walking out into the night, a pilot vanishing from the sky, or an entire family swallowed by the landscape, the world remains full of dark corners and unanswered questions. For every solved case, a dozen more grow colder, their clues slipping further out of reach. What makes these unsolved disappearances so compelling is the way they prey on our deepest fears. The idea that someone could step out of their daily routine and simply never return, that there could be no trace, no explanation, no closure, is almost unbearable. Families are left in limbo, haunted by what-ifs. Investigators pursue every lead, clinging to hope that a single clue might crack the case wide open. And the rest of us, drawn to these stories, are left to wonder, could it happen to anyone? Could it happen to us? The passage of time only deepens the mystery. As years turn into decades, evidence disappears, memories fade, and witnesses pass away. Yet sometimes, all it takes is a single break, a bone fragment, a confession, a witness who finally decides to speak, for a cold case to ignite once more. Until then, we're left with the eerie silence of the unsolved, the empty places in family photos, and the haunting echo of the last words spoken before someone vanished without a trace. If you found tonight's journey into the unknown as chilling as we did, don't forget to subscribe to Chilling Mysteries for more true crime cases that defy belief. Share your theories in the comments. What do you think happened in these strange disappearances? And remember, the truth is often stranger, and far more terrifying, than fiction. Until next time, stay safe, keep searching for answers, and never stop asking questions.